The Beretta APX A1. Let's check it out. Beretta's the oldest firearm company still in existence, and they're almost 500 years old. They make a really high quality line of shotguns, rifles, and handguns. In fact, the Beretta 92 served the U.S. military from 1985 until just recently when it was replaced by the SIG P320 or the M17. The APX original, what they're calling the APX 0, was introduced into those trials and really performed exceptionally well. One of the things about the APX is that it had an unorthodox slide configuration. The serrations actually came out from the slide. It was a very different look. Personally, I really liked it, and it was very functional. But it really didn't do as well with the shooting community. So they redesigned the slide and a lot of other features, and they're now introducing the Beretta APX A1. This is still an APX, the same pistol that went through all the military trials. And they are very durable. They're accurate, they're very ergonomic, and honestly, the way this gun is set up, it is really easy on recoil, very flat shooting. So Beretta got in touch with me and asked if I'd be interested in reviewing the APX A1. I have really liked the original APX series, so I was really excited to get a hold of one of these. The new Beretta APX A1. This is an enhanced version of the original APX 0. And the APX 0 was actually tested through the U.S. military trials, and it came through with flying colors. I mean, this went through all the durability tests, all the torture tests. This gun really performed well. Now, this is actually the Centurion model. It's a little bit shorter slide, shorter grip. The biggest difference is the slide, and you can see it's a little bit unorthodox. Some people love it, some people don't like it, to the point that Beretta felt like it really needed to change the look. But honestly, these are very similar, if not the same internals in the frame. But before we get started, let's go ahead and check to make sure the gun's unloaded. We're going to drop our 17+1 magazine, chamber's empty. Here with the APX 0 Centurion, we have a 15-round magazine, and the gun is empty. Now, there are a lot of similarities. You can see that first off, the grips. I mean, except for the length, they're pretty much identical. Same checkering on the back, same laser etching on the sides, and then we have checkering on the front. But one of the things about the A1 is it has this texture right here, and it has memory pads at the front. And pretty much that is absent on the original. You can see it's just a smooth finish. There are some styling here that gives you something to actually, put your thumb on when you're firing it. But I really like the way they've gone with this. And it gives you a lot of texturing all the way throughout. There are extra grip panels that you can replace these with, of course, and which has become the norm. But with this slide, you can see that the serrations are deep and they're very strong. In fact, really easy to pull back that slide. It just kind of bites into your hand without causing any kind of pain, but it's definitely different than the original APX 0. One of the things about the full-size model is it did have finger grooves. They were kind of abbreviated all the way through, and it was only on the full-size model. As you can see on the Centurion, it goes with the flat. The internals are almost identical inside the frame. So I really think that there was a lot of work done on the slide itself, and there are a few additional features here. One of them is the trigger, which we'll take a good look at. But from all that I've heard, these have been extremely reliable, going through 10,000 rounds of shooting without any malfunctions. So the APX A1 is going to be in that same genre. Now, one of the things about the APX when I was doing the initial review is that it was just flat shooting. Has a lot to do with the recoil system, a lot to do with this high ride beaver tail area effect right here. And it's the same on the A1. In fact, they're almost identical, if not identical. But one of the big differences with the new A1 is that it has a really high undercut right under the trigger guard. And this is going to allow you to really get your hand up high on the pistol. And we have a fairly low bore axis, and that's nice. I really like low bore axes. It really helps with the pistol. If you think about it this way, if you hold a pistol down here, this thing is going to rock like crazy. So the higher up you get, the more control you have over the firearm. And of course, there are some other styling features, especially on the frame, but it's pretty much cosmetic. Most of the differences are really with the slide. Now, one of the things about this slide in particular is the finish on here is beautiful. I mean, it's a very nice matte black finish, and it's what they call their Aquatech coating. And it's corrosion and chemical resistant. And so that's going to keep a really nice finish on your slide. The sights are blacked out at the back with serrations. And then here at the front, we have a tritium sight. And so that's going to give you a nice contrast, and it's going to give you night capability. And of course, they are steel, and there will be sights that you can interchange with this if you want to change those out. Another big plus is that we have an optics ready pistol. And so you have your optics plate here on the original APX. One of the problems, and this is the same with the 92s, is you had this little button right here. Now you watch this as I pull the trigger. It comes up. And so it was one of the things that they were working on so they could actually put an optics plate on here and still have a place for this to come up. Because this is actually part of the striker assembly. And the Beretta 92 has a similar kind of setup right here as well. But these come with just standard 3-dot sights. They are metal. They come out really nice. And guys, to be honest, I really do like this design. But I think that Beretta was really smart in going and revamping it. This is going to be better received by the shooting community. We do have kind of a cut here, but it's just the slide serrations actually come out. And it's one of the things with the original APX. Now we have a 3-slot Picatinny rail. We have ridges on the front of the trigger guard, and it's a very ample trigger guard. It's also undercut here at the bottom. And guys, really with this texturing, the front and the back strap are really where you grip the pistol. That is where you control the pistol. On the side, that's just really cosmetic pretty much, and it does help to a point. I think this thumb rest right here actually will help as well. But really, it's the front and back strap. We have your slide stop, but we have one on the other side that's ambidextrous. We have a magazine release, and you can switch it to the other side, but it doesn't have an ambidextrous magazine release. And speaking of magazines, it actually gives you a little bit of a swell down here, so when you're gripping the pistol, your hand just tends to nestle right there within the grip. And I really like the magazines, the way it cuts up this way, because if you need to pull this out because of a malfunction, it gives you something to grip. And 2, magazines going in, it's really easy to do. There's a slight bevel right at the magazine well, but with this tip on the magazine, it just allows it to go straight in. But one of the big pluses for the APX line is it does have a modular assembly inside. So this has a modular chassis. That is what's considered the firearm. The serial number's right here. You can see it through the frame. And it's stainless steel. And that way you can change out your grip shells. You could possibly change out a whole nother barrel length and slide. And so it just gives you a lot of different options, especially if you live in states where it's kind of a pain to go through a background check and to get your firearms when you're looking for another one. You can just switch all this out if you want to have multiple choices. So it's a very modular system, and that really came from the U.S. military trials. In fact, we gained a lot from those trials, even from the guns that didn't make the cut. A lot of that had to do with price. But the features, we really gained quite a bit with those trials. Now the barrel is 4.25 inches in length. Again, this is in 9mm, and it is really soft to shoot. Now when the APX A1 carry came out, this is just a standard 9mm. It's a single stack magazine, but I realized that Beretta was going to a different design, just seeing what is on this slide. It has very wide slide serrations. We're going to drop our magazine. Again, it is single stack and really thin, really easy to carry. It is optics ready, and it has a lot of that same texturing on the front and back. So there's a lot of styling, but yet there's a lot of differences between these two pistols. The magazines are very well done. Beautiful bluing on here, by the way. And these are made in Italy. You do get two 17-round magazines with the pistol. Now, magazine compatibility between the original APX 0 and the APX A1. Of course, the Centurion has the shorter magazine, but you can see that all the cuts are the same. The followers, everything's the same. These are the same mags, just a 15-rounder and a 17-rounder. And so we can take the 17-round magazine, put it in the Centurion, and of course it does lock the slide back. I mean, it is the same magazine. Now, Beretta has a 20-round magazine that will fit in the APX, but they also offer this same pistol with a 10-round magazine and a 15-round magazine for states that aren't so free. Now, the trigger is what they call their best-in-class trigger. It's a flat-face trigger. It has this trigger safety on here, and this little lever, you can see when you press the lever, it lifts up that little stop at the back. And so as we pull the trigger, very little take up. I mean, it comes right there. And then you hit a wall, and then we have a nice break. It's not a super crisp break, but it's not bad. Let's go ahead and check our reset. Right there. Very quick reset, and you're back on it. I'll have to say that this trigger is not necessarily the best trigger that I've ever seen, but for a polymer striker fire pistol, it's not bad. And I love that short take up. Now let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 5 pounds, 6.1 ounces. 5 pounds, 9.7 ounces. So about the 5.5 range. It's 7.5 inches in length. It's 5.6 inches in height. The grip is 1.06 inches, but it's 1.3 inches right here in the slide width. And the weight on the APX A1, 1 pound, 12.8 ounces. Now, we really appreciate Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA, one of the largest suppliers of ammunition in the country. And also, we want to thank Lula Loaders for saving our thumbs and making these mag loads really fast. Now guys, again, I was a big fan of the standard APX, but taking the new APX A1 down to the range, this grip, it just fits. There's something about this lip that comes off that just allows this to nestle. When you're shooting it, you have full control, and I just really like this grip. There's a lot of different grips out there and they fit different people, but there's something about this one particular. The undercut right here too at the trigger guard makes it nice. Lowering the bore axis somewhat and bringing this out, it's like a beaver tail. And so it really allows you to get up high because you're getting your hand up there. It just shoots really well. It tracks well. The recoil is very mild. I think the way this was designed very well. The serrations, while they're definitely much more muted than the original APX, you know, it still allows you to grab hold of it very easily. Again, it reminds me of the Walther PDP to a point, and I think maybe we're moving a little bit to that. Now, putting a red dot on here would definitely be nice, and we're going to do that. So that's coming up because I'm really enjoying shooting this gun, and I want to get it back out to the range. Like I say, when ammunition's flowing, the cameras are rolling, so it gives me a good reason to come out and shoot it. The mag reloads, though, they just go in really fast. It was really different as far as just how easy they go in. Of course, these cutouts here that fit the magazine base, and then too, it allows you to rip those magazines out if you need to. But the good thing is we never had to try it out because we didn't have any malfunctions. Just a really sweet shooting gun. Honestly, it surprised me. And I shoot a lot of polymer frame striker fire pistols, and each one has its advantages. So far, I'm a big fan of the grip. Of course, the magazines go in really easily. No finger grooves. really ergonomic and thin. Just seems to shoot very flat. I love those aggressive serrations. Step down from the original, but you know, it kind of reminds me of the Walther PDP, but actually a little less aggressive, but a very well balanced firearm. I mean, it just shoots really well. Now for disassembly, there are two different ways you can do it. You can do it just by pulling the trigger, and that releases the striker. Or right here is a little bit of a divot with this little pin. You push that in, and that disengages your striker. We're going to go ahead and do it just by pulling the trigger, and you want to do that first. And then right here, this small button, you want to push it, and then your takedown lever at the same time, push it out, and then just turn it into the down position. You're going to have to give it a little bit of force, but once you do, it's really easy. You know how much force needs to be taken. And then once we do that, we can just pull the slide right off the frame. Then we're going to remove our recoil system, which I think this has a lot to do with the recoil management of this gun. It's very well done, has a nice weight at the back, has a flat recoil spring, which typically lessens the recoil. And it is all metal. And then we have our barrel. Just pull it out. Nice barrel system. I mean, you got your feed ramp, definitely a Browning linkless design. Now the slide is extremely well done. The finishing is excellent. And then of course we've been shooting this one, so it's a little bit dirty. You can see the striker. You have your striker block right here. And then with the frame, this is the part though that really sets this gun apart. One thing about the chassis system is you can actually pull this out and then pop that pin through and just pull the chassis right out. And again, that is part of your gun. Now one thing that's interesting is that I left the magazine in when I disassembled it. So that is possible to do, but you really should remove your magazine. But one of the things about this is the long slide rails. This is going to give you more slide to frame contact than most of your striker fire pistols. Typically they have a very short little rail, probably about 3/4 of an inch long, if that. And it's at the front and back. This allows the slide to actually move along these rails a little bit better. And so it's going to give it a little more of a smooth recoil back and forth. Now to remove the chassis system, we're just going to pull this out, and you have to kind of find it. It'll come right out. Now you'll notice this spring right here, and you'll need to lift it up off of that pin before you drive it through. Otherwise it won't come through. And once we get the tension off that spring, you can just push this pin through. Just like that. And then right here where you relieve your striker, you just depress it, and then you can bring the chassis out. Just like that. And so again, this is your chassis system, and this is actually considered the gun. Everything else is extra, and you can get extra grip frames at some point. I know they produce the green and the FDE and even a gray version. So hopefully we'll be seeing those. And typically you don't necessarily need to take the chassis out, but you can if you want to do any kind of cleaning. Now you'll notice this second pin is retained inside the chassis. So we're going to need to depress it when we put it back in. So I'm going to start out with my trigger first. Then we're going to depress that little striker disassembly pin. I snapped this back together after I got it off camera, but it just snaps back into place. And you'll see this comes right through the frame. You have a step down on one side and you have a groove on the other. We want to put the step down in first, and we're going to put it in on this side. But you've got to get that spring out of the way first. And it can be a little bit tricky. There we go. This is difficult behind the camera, but not as difficult. There we go. You also got to make sure this hammer is out of the way when this pin comes through. Make sure we have everything lined up. This is definitely where you need 3 hands. Okay, we've got it all the way in. We just need to push it down a little bit more. There it goes. Again, you don't have to take out your chassis every time you disassemble. Thank goodness. And make sure the hole through your chassis and your grip frame are lined up. Then just put this in, and you just turn it until it gets into the right position. And you want to make sure it's facing that other side. There we go. Then you'll notice again, you push that button, it'll bring that down. Now as far as internal design, I've got both pistols broken down. The barrels are the same. I mean, all the cuts are the same. And then we have the recoil springs. Of course, obviously with the shorter version, we have a double recoil spring. Slides are very close. There is a cutout right here in the A1. But otherwise, we have just pretty much the same design all the way throughout. Of course, one of the things that is going to be a difference is with the top of the Centurion and the older APX A1. Is we did have that little bump right there, which we don't have with the A1. So I'm not really sure if the slides are going to fit and if they'll function. Now, as far as the frames go, the chassis, stainless steel in the A1. In the Zero, it looks like it's more of a carbon type steel. All the controls are pretty much the same though. I mean, maybe this is a little bit shaped a little different with the ejector. And then here at the front we have these holes right here. Not really sure if that makes a difference. But definitely super close, if not pretty much exact as far as functioning. So again guys, this is an APX pistol. Let's go ahead and reassemble now. This is really the way you should reassemble your gun typically. Bring in your recoil spring and guide rod. Bring your slide back over your frame. And then just rack it like that and your takedown lever will go back into position. Test for function. And we're good to go. Comes in a nice hard case, pistol, extra magazines. You have 2 additional back straps, and this is the large and this is the small. It comes with the medium. You have a magazine loader, and you have a lock, and of course you have all your paperwork, and it's up here in the top. And it does come with a cleaning brush. Now the MSRP for the Beretta APX A1 is $529. Market price is going to be less. So to me, this is really an excellent option if you're looking for a striker fire polymer frame pistol. And of course, it has the Beretta name, which they've been in business again for almost 500 years. And guys, in a sea of polymer frame striker fire 9mm pistols, it's really good to have a lot of choices. And I think with the APX line, it gives you a tried and true design, and yet it brings it up to all the modern standards, all the bells and whistles. This is a really exceptional shooting gun, and it's really nice to see Beretta taking it to the next level. And we really appreciate Beretta for sending the APX A1 for this review. Now we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide for being one of our sponsors, and they give a $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, no 00. And they have all kind of outdoor related, camping, hiking, firearms, you name it, they've got it. But one thing that I use them probably the most for is their military surplus from around the world. And if you join their buyers club, you get a better price and you get free shipping on most items. So check out Sportsman's Guide, it's a great resource. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic. And the APX Zero actually was used for the military trials. And the APX Zero was actually... You gotta love the Beretta. And you'll need to relieve that tension and kind of bring it off. And why am I going out of focus? I mean, it's just a really solid little